Hello there, good vibes fam. Welcome on some epic episode of today's reaction. My friend, I am Y311H, and together with my bunny friends, we say welcome. Thanks a lot for clicking this video. Today, my friend, we shall be on a mission of spreading love, peace, honesty, and forgiveness to the whole world. But before that, this wonderful book here I'm holding, my friend, is known as the Guide of Life or the Book of Wisdom. And there is something I'd like to share with you from it today. So listen to what it says. The Lord is exalted over all the nations. His glory is above the heavens. Who is like the Lord our God, the one who sits enthroned on high, who stoops down to look on the heavens and the earth? He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He sits them with the princes of their people. He settles the barren woman in her home as a happy mother of children. Praise the Lord. Psalms 113, my friends, from 4 going down. You see here, we really acknowledge God Almighty. It's why, my friend, we always also give thanks to our Creator before we dive in. And today, we shall also be doing that. So, let's humble ourselves and give thanks. Dear Lord Father, thank you for your life, Father, in us. Dear Lord, thank you for forgiveness of all our sins through the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus Christ. Dear Lord Father, these videos that we are about to react to, guide us through them, Father. Help us to spread our message to the whole world through them. In Jesus' mighty name, we do pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Wonderful souls. Let's dive into spreading some love. Good vibes all the way.
Some bolete mushrooms will stain blue whenever they're cut or bruised. There are bolete species that will turn blue very quickly when they're exposed to oxygen, and others will change at a slower rate.
Facts you didn't know about donkeys. Fact number 1. Donkeys have an incredible memory. These smart creatures can remember places, other animals, and even people they haven't seen in years. Fact number 2. Donkeys have massive ears. These actually serve a purpose. They help keep the donkey cool in hot temperatures by dissipating heat. Fact number 3. Donkeys are not picky eaters. They love to munch on a variety of plants and grasses. Plus, they have a super digestive system that allows them to extract every bit of nutrition from their food. Fact number 4. Donkeys are social animals and form strong bonds with their herd mates. They even show affection by grooming each other and standing guard while others sleep. Fact number 5. Donkeys are excellent at problem solving. They can figure out complex tasks and even open gates and doors with their clever minds.
Here are 3 things that I avoid doing as a neuroscientist and brain coach to protect my brain and mindset. The first is gossip and drama. Being involved in gossip and drama reduces our ability to focus and think logically by increasing activity in the amygdala. And the amygdala is part of the emotional brain. The amygdala and prefrontal cortex are highly connected, so being negative reduces activity in the logical brain. Which brings me to the second thing that I avoid, which is negative self-talk and criticism. Negative self-talk and criticism wires the brain to look for what's wrong rather than what's right. It also increases stress and anxiety and reduces performance and our ability to achieve our goals. And the more that you criticize yourself, the more that you criticize others. So practicing self-forgiveness will also help you to stop doing number 1, gossip and drama. The third thing I avoid is social media breaks. If every time you're at a red light, waiting in line, or taking a break at work, you're checking social media, you're decreasing focus and productivity by overstimulating and tiring the brain. You're also decreasing your ability to be creative because time in silence and boredom is essential for allowing the mind to wander.
What are genes? Now you may know you get some genes from your mom and some genes from your dad, but what are they? Well, genes are simply a section of DNA. Thanks to Rosalind Franklin's X-ray crystallography work, we know that DNA is a double helix molecule, a spiraled molecule. But if we unwrap that spiral, it kind of looks like a ladder, where the ends of the ladders are the phosphate sugar backbone, and the rungs of the ladder are nucleic acids adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, but we just call them A, T, C, and G for short. And each rung is made of 2 of these nucleic acids. So adenine always bonds to thymine, and cytosine always bonds to guanine. So each of these rungs is either AT or CG. But if you look at one side of this ladder, you'll see some sort of code, like AT, CG, CG, AT, CG, AGG, CTG, all the way down, with its corresponding nucleic acid pair on the other side. And each of these AT, C, and Gs we call base pairs. That sequence of AT, Cs, and Gs is a gene. And in humans, genes can be anywhere from a couple hundred to over 1 million base pairs long. But what does it do? What does a gene do in your body? Very simply, a gene is an instruction manual on how to make proteins in your body. And protein is a general molecule. Protein is more than just the make me strong molecule. Proteins are molecules that do a lot of things in your body. And each gene codes for a specific protein. And your body makes these proteins by reading the gene. So it'll read A, T, C, G, G, C, A, all the way down, 10,000, 25,000 of these pairs, and goes, oh, okay, I gotta go make this protein. Or, oh, that's how you make this protein. So genes are sections of your DNA that tell your body, hey, this is how you build this kind of protein. All right, I hope I made that make sense to you. I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious, everybody. Bye.
Y'all asked for more mermaid content, and I shall deliver. Now, on my recent videos of me talking about the mermaids in Zimbabwe and the different parts of the Caribbean, a lot of people were commenting saying that I need to discuss the ones that's in South Africa. So let's talk about it. Now, the story that I'll be talking about today was requested by a follower, and it is really crazy, and it was very difficult to find little information about. But I will say this whole thing is allegedly. I am not saying that this is exactly true, because y'all know I like to keep it real when it comes down, especially to my mermaid content. But it just caught my attention, and I just thought I should share it. Now, former South African President Jacob Zuma was accused of basically having mermaids in his fire pool at his home around 2014. Crazy, right? So basically at his compound at a private residence in South Africa, he have this huge swimming pool, and it has like a purpose of being a fire pool. And it was claimed that the pool was constructed as like a feature and a security upgrade. And rumor has it he was smuggling 2 mermaids in there, and they were just swimming around alive and well. And a lot of people have accused him of doing witchcraft over the years. Now, I don't know much about Jacob Zuma and the South African government, but I did read up how a lot of people, felt this type of way. And there was actually like a leaked picture of the alleged mermaids that was in his pool. Now, that's a little stretch to me because mermaids don't live in pools. I don't know if they had like specific water in there and they just covered it up with the whole fire pool name. But that's why it sounds so kind of crazy to me. But you never know. But that was actually like a statement confirmed by a spokesman that the 2 mermaids were real. It was alleged that the former president wasn't aware that the mermaids was out there in his fire pool. But a lot of people felt like he was using these mermaids as some type of magic or some type of stuff for witchcraft. Now, I am not saying that he does witchcraft, but I did read up how a lot of people felt like he did because he got out of a lot of like legal issues that he should have probably been in jail about. Like I said, I don't really know much about Jacob Zuma, but I do know that he was accused of some crazy stuff that he probably should have did some time for. So people were saying that he walked out free because of the magical work he does. But I'm just a messenger. But the 2 mermaids was allegedly executed and transported to an undisclosed research laboratory. Now, do I think that this whole thing is crazy? Yes. But do we live in a crazy world filled with stuff that we don't know about and that's unexplained? Yes. But like I said, this could be just an article that I read, but I did find it interesting. So let me know if y'all heard about this, because like I said, I looked everywhere and I really couldn't find anybody talking about this story, but I found it crazy. So of course I had to share. And let me know if y'all have had any more experiences in South Africa with these mermaids, because we really don't hear much about them over there. We always hear about Haiti and Jamaica, and now we're hearing more about the ones in Zimbabwe. So let me know in the comments what y'all think.
Did you know that no matter how good your internet connection is, your ping time, or the amount of time it takes for the data in your internet connection to reach its destination and come back, has a lower bound that you can never be faster than? And this makes sense because your data can't travel faster than the speed of light. But let's actually calculate that lower bound. So suppose I am in my college dorm room, which was in Newark, New Jersey, and I want to play a video game that has servers in Los Angeles. How long is it going to take in the best case scenario, my data to go to LA and back? Well, the distance from Newark to LA is about 4 million meters or 4,000 kilometers, and the speed of light is about 300,000 kilometers or 300 million meters per second. Well, if you divide the distance by the speed, you get 4 over 300, which is approximately 13 milliseconds for the amount of time in the best case scenario it takes the data to travel one way. Which means that no matter how good our scientific advancements are, unless we find a way to go faster than the speed of light, your ping will never be better than 26 milliseconds.
Found out only this year that you can look at the UV index on your mobile phone. If you go on your weather app, it gives you the UV index for the day on your phone. The issue about sunscreen is there's two things, right? UV rays increasing your risk of cancer versus UV rays increasing risk of photo aging and just aesthetic damage. Now, if I didn't care about photo aging and the sun making me look older, and I only cared about the skin cancer, if I'm in the UK where it's probably UV index 3 most of the year, do I need to wear sunscreen every day? Probably not, right? But if someone, like Caucasian person, probably yes, they should wear sunscreen on a daily basis for the skin cancer protection. UV index of 3 or more, for most people, probably wearing sunscreen, unless you have certain, darker skin types. Like for me, for example, maybe I should only be considering wearing sunscreen if the UV index was maybe more than 7 or 8 and I was in the sun for prolonged periods of time.
Oh my god, look at these sea creatures. Some of them look extremely bizarre and mysterious. Look at this one, man. Do some of these even have names? These people, have you named this one? Like this one? Yeah. Oh, some of them look like dust or waste products. My god, which type of octopus is this? Oh, is this CGI or real stuff, good people of Earth? Aye, look at this weird looking fish. This one, I think is...
The word demon didn't always refer to evil spirits. You see, the English word demon was derived from the ancient Greek word daimon. The ancient Greeks used this word to refer to guiding spirits and lesser deities. The meaning of this word began to change due to the influence of Judaism and Christianity. Jewish texts, when translated into Greek, would sometimes use the word daimon to refer to false gods or malevolent spirits. Then, with the rise of Christianity, writers would use the word to refer to a range of beings, from fallen angels to simply evil spirits, or even pagan deities of pre-Christian populations. So a lot of Indo-European deities were interpreted as evil demons. Now, interestingly, something very similar occurred at the other end of the Indo-European speaking world. Before I continue, I make videos and book recommendations on topics I speak about. Please watch Pinned if you're interested in learning. As you may be aware, Greek is part of the Indo-European language family. The Indo-Iranian languages like Persian and Hindi also belong to the Indo-European language family. And so they have cognates, which are words in different languages derived from the same root. The cognates of the Greek word daimon in Sanskrit is deva, and in Avestan it's daiva. I think I pronounced that right. In Hinduism, the gods are collectively known as the deva, and those that oppose these gods are known as the ashura. On the other hand, in Zoroastrianism, the evil spirits are known as the daiva, while the Zoroastrian god is known as ahura. Why do you think this is the case?
Did you notice that attempting to build flexibility in your hamstrings through global stretch exercises often doesn't work? This happens because by default, our nervous system selects the area with the least resistance to perform the movement. As a result, we often reach the end of the range of motion in our spine before the hamstrings receive proper stimulation. To effectively perform global movements, we must first address hip issues in a more targeted way and build the rest of our flexibility on top of that, not the other way around.
Have you guys ever wondered why soldiers would just stand and fire in a straight line when it sounds like it'd be way more tactical if they moved around so they wouldn't get hit? Well, to start, the muskets they used back then were so inaccurate that the bullets would basically just fly everywhere, so you couldn't just have your buddy standing right in front of you. That removed a lot of options, but you also have to consider the soldier's psychology. When the soldiers all stood in line, it was really easy to make sure they were all doing their jobs as opposed to just hiding behind a tree and waiting out the battle. And if anyone tried to retreat, it'd be super obvious and they could be punished. And for the enemy's perspective, it was a lot more psychologically terrifying to see a massive sudden volley of fire from from a line of soldiers than it was to see a bunch of soldiers spread out firing randomly. Because regardless of how slow and inaccurate the muskets were, they knew that at the next round of volley fire, someone was getting unalived because at least one of those bullets was for sure hitting someone, creating a sense of terror and making it way more likely that the enemy might just run away. And finally, because the guns were so poor, there was a lot more hand-to-hand combat, and if your soldiers were already grouped up in a line, then it was a lot easier for them to fight together. Whereas if they were each spread out, they could each get ganged up on or ambushed by cavalry.
Okay, and from this video, my friends, some good vibes, so think that those NSA guys really rise. Because from this video, what we see, it's like the sun is not in space, you see? Or let's say a million miles away. It looks way more closer than usual. Enough for this, my friends. It's clear the reason as to why I
Here's
preach
some other
honest.
impact craters. On the left from the moon, on the right from Arizona, and for the podcast listeners, let me tell you, they are round. Knowing this shape is unique to planetary surfaces that have been hit by asteroids creating the craters, you have to have a second look at the Yucatan cenote map and say, holy shit. The cenotes in the Yucatan Peninsula are associated with an asteroid impact, the famous one that killed off the dinos 66 million years ago. Evidence for this can be found all over the planet. So this picture is from Spain. This is showing the KPG, meaning the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary. So below that line is times before the asteroid impact. Above that line are times after the asteroid impact. It's a layer of clay found in many places throughout planet Earth that contains relatively high levels of iridium, which is not typical of Earth's crust, but is typical of asteroids. The cenotes that make up this ring are called, ready for a science term, ring cenotes.
Unexpected.
I know. Because they show where the outer ring of the impact crater is. So if we were to remove all of the soil and water, this is what we'd see. Once again, round.
String theory is coming apart at the seams right now, no pun intended, as it should. And people are starting to realize it was one big fat lie. But wait till you find out why they were lying. The supposed father of string theory, you might say, Edward Witten, his father was involved with government experiments into electrogravitic propulsion, anti-gravity type stuff, and vortex physics. See, what happened was Ed's father, along with a lot of other scientists with government backing, obviously, discovered something exponentially more powerful than nuclear fission. It is a door that opened many doors, all of which would not be made available to the public. The only reason the nuclear weapon was made available to the public is because it was chosen to be used explicitly on Japan, and there was a lot of leaks. They learned from that, and also they learned, I'm sure they have a word for it, where you develop tons of high tech but you don't use it, because there's this thing called a zero-hour protocol. It's an idea used in more in like the digital domain. I just got poked by something. And the idea is, like, if you use a virus, as soon as you use it, you effectively lose your ability to own its secrets, because the very fact of using it presents its entire architecture, because it's already kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of blockchained into the internet, and it can be like retraced and reverse engineered really easily. Now, other types of technology, like in the real world, don't have a 0-hour protocol, but you might say it's a 5-hour protocol. Right, and so, let's say they're using some kind of new jet and, flies over another country, and the country gets tons of pictures and, like, different types of radio scans, and they can, find out maybe what some of the technology that's in the plane is by some means of, scanning or whatever. They can begin to start maybe developing by reverse engineering whatever they've seen and been able to measure in some way. Let's say one of those planes crashes, it becomes tremendously more easy to back engineer. So when you see the US opened a magical door of technology with the help of the Germans that completely changed material science in the physics domain. And it unleashed a kind of power that they all deemed was too powerful to make public. And so what they did is they created a fantasy science called string theory, whose primary fundamental presupposition is itself based on a misunderstanding. That is of fourth dimensional space-time. It's not real. There's no 3 dimensions of actual space. We take 3-dimensional graph paper abstractly, mathematically, and we superimpose it on the real territory of reality, and we call that dimensions. It's an abstract mathematical or scientific concept that just helps us to measure things that happen in the world. There's no dimensions. Now, I've explained this before, and I think I just explained it quite concisely, but if that's not enough for you, ask a scientist to show you the 3 dimensions. They're going to pull out a piece of paper and they're going to start writing equations, or they're going to try to explain to you in mathematical or scientific, abstract scientific terms what 3 dimensions are, and then you're going to say, no, show me in reality. And they might say, what do you mean? It's like, can you give me any evidence-based experiment that shows the 3 dimensions? They're not going to be able to do it. They can't, because the 3 dimensions don't exist. This is the same with time. Time is not a dimension. There's a paradox. There's a paradox that no one really knows about, and that is that scientists believe, based on brainwave studies and scans of different animals, that different animals perceive time at different speeds. That's paradoxical if time's a dimension, which means we're getting something wrong, okay? Because if you simply understand what time really is, then that paradox goes away. And what time really is a secondary effect of matter and energy. Because in a space where there's no matter or energy, there's no way to measure time. That's because time isn't passing. But time also isn't time. It's not a dimensional thing that we're moving along. Time is what we use as a measurement for the process of things. We're talking universal momentum, which isn't happening in all places all around. The entire universe isn't being carried through a dimension of time. Processes occurring in some places, but there are giant bubbles of places in the universe that time isn't passing, because there's nothing to show that it's passing. And in a small vacuum space where there's no matter and energy, no time is passing. The very act of measuring time requires matter and energy. So it's just a mistake in trying to force abstract ideas onto the real world. And so string theory, with its 11 or 12 dimensions, is basing everything on completely false foundations of four-dimensional space-time, which isn't real. They did, and any scientist will tell you, it's like they've never been able to bring anything of value. They've never been able to prove any of these theories, but they keep adding more fantastical elements onto them. They've created a literal sci-fi system of science that's not real, and that was done intentionally to distract us from the fact that they went a completely different way with science on the underground. And string theory is it's a theatrical performance. So that's what's really going on, folks. The level of technology they actually have would absolutely blow your mind. You wouldn't think any UFOs are from outer space if you understood what they have. So yeah, that's what's going on with string theory. Gravity isn't what you think it is either. But yeah, I think it's important for people to understand this, because it's this type of, the same thing as he who controls the past controls the present. It's like he who controls the way people think about the natural world also controls how people behave in it and respond to it. Religion is a control system. Modern religion, modern science is a control system. Look, we've been on pause for decades and decades and decades, philosophically, religiously, scientifically. That's never happened in history. We've had situations where, religions went on crusades against reason, but that was absolutely apparent. We just seem to have paused for no reason, because it's a very clandestine and secretive way of controlling, right? It's not by force. They're not burning people at the stake because they're like, is 1 times 1 really equal 1? People aren't dying for that, right? But what they've done is they've created so much performative art. Like, the whole reality is bread and circus. It's not just the football games. The football games is just a level down of bread and circus. Like, there's a meta bread and circus, which is everything. Your politics, your religion, your science, it's all fake. It's all a joke. That's the Matrix. It doesn't have to be all-encompassing for all of reality. No. The Matrix is every single political and religious and scientific system that's presented to you today as real. Every single one of them has 1,000 holes that you can see if you do any critical thinking. They paused all of us in like the 1940s, and they've continued on. Storm the Vatican Library.
Place a rock at the end of the shadow. If you place a stick standing straight, wait for 15 to 30 minutes and check. The shadow will have moved. What? Place a rock at the end of the new shadow line. Okay. The first rock indicates west and the second rock indicates east. Now you have a compass.
Your genetics play a major role in whether you're a morning person or not, but can you change that? You're asking, right, girl? Because I'm Rachel, the neuroscientist. Short answer is yes, with an asterisk. So the research is really messy, particularly looking at night owls, who are obviously the ones who tend to want to change their sleep and wake cycle. Some studies suggest that it's an improvement for them to go onto an earlier schedule. Some studies suggest that there are kind of like negative outcomes for cognition and mental health. Particularly though, in these studies, they're not really taking genetic samples. So it could just be that they're morning larks who fell into bad habits and were rescued, and that's why we saw those positive outcomes. Like, we don't know. Let's say you don't have a choice. Well, you can use light and dark cycles. Not only that this changes our habit, but it has been shown to also alter our genetics, making epigenetic alterations. It means exposing yourself to sunlight within the first 30 minutes of waking up, then kind of punctuating your day with lots of sunlight, then gradually dimming light 4 to 6 hours before your desired bedtime. That sounds like overkill, but when you're trying to move your bedtime, you want to give your brain plenty of time to start making that melatonin. Also use exercise. So generally exercising 1 to 2 hours after waking can help shift your sleep phase a little bit earlier. And if you are changing your sleep schedule, go lightly. Do it like 15 to 30 minutes at a time. Don't go from like waking up at noon to suddenly waking up at 7. Go in small 15-minute, 30-minute increments. That's going to be easier for your body.
Road signs can look brighter from far away and dimmer close up. That's because most road signs are made with retro-reflective materials developed by 3M, which reflect the light off of 3 faces straight back to the source, even if it moves. They create this by shaping the back of the material into a sheet of these tiny, precisely shaped structures through a process they call microreplication. This is why we don't need streetlights at every sign, and partly because the angle between your eyes and your headlights increases as you get closer.
Almost any time I talk about human evolution, people love to ask me about Neanderthal DNA. How much of me is actually a Neanderthal? And the truth is, if you're from an African population, that percentage is around 0 to close to 0%. And if you're from a Eurasian population, that percentage is maybe 1 to 2% maximum. But none of that is nearly as exciting to me as retroviruses. You see, retroviruses work by implanting their DNA into their host DNA. HIV is an example of a retrovirus. That's what makes it so hard to cure. And sometimes a retrovirus will implant its DNA into your germ cells, your sperm and eggs, meaning there's a chance that you will pass that viral DNA onto your offspring and make it a permanent fixture in your evolutionary history, what we call an endogenous retrovirus. And not only are endogenous retroviruses completely ubiquitous across the entire animal kingdom, they make up 8% of the human genome. You are far more